Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Advanced Self-Awareness course. This is the second installment. So, uh, for those of you watching live, hello, thank you for coming. For those of you watching on YouTube, this is done in a Discord server. Go to rosefolk.xyz and you can join the server there and watch them live and ask questions. So, the previous installment, we just went over the baselines of some things, but this time we're doing something a bit different. So I've done self-awareness stuff, just like one-shot things, because there's really it's a very practical subject. You can't really teach it. It's something that you have to do. Nobody else can do this for you. You can't do this for other people, to a degree. And there's really not much to talk about once you're past a certain point. But I thought it's the advanced self-awareness course. I'm gonna do as much as I possibly can to just try and make this as good as possible. So through this drive, we have something which there's lots to it, but something that I call personal compassing. So, basically, how to enliven self-awareness in other people is a very difficult thing to do. It's very hard, but it's also very rewarding, and generally, it works. But there is lots of important things around it. So, the word compassing, yeah, sure, it's just a word that I made up, but what I ascribe it to mean is it's charting the course. So you could do compassing for an organization, a group of people, a thing, an item, and you can do compassing for people. So it's charting the course and creating a compass and a framework that other people can use. But it's not set in stone. It's not dogma, and there's a way to do it. Yeah. So we're going to talk about compassing for a person. So doing compassing for a person is creating a compass, an internal compass for you, and then using that to do things and to show you what to do. I forgot to say, can you hear me? I'm assuming you can, but so it's making a compass for yourself, and I'm just paranoid. Anyway, so it's creating something. It's creating a framework that you yourself can use in order to help other people. The difference between this and other things is it's very light, and in my opinion, in terms of self-awareness, this is the correct thing to do. There's not much else that's effective. Because self-awareness, again, is something the work can only be done by the person. It can't be done by anybody else. So it's doing things to make people think. And obviously it's different for every person. It's very, very much different for each person. And the person has to be free at all times. Otherwise, you're shooting yourself in the foot, and probably the person is going to go backwards rather than forwards. So, oh, hold on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Apologies, YouTube viewers. Okay. Cool. Okay. I'll just go over briefly what I said. So, um, so this installment is going to be on something that I call personal compassing. So compassing is charting the course. It's creating an internal map or framework or compass that you can use to do things. So personal compassing, doing compassing on a person is what we're talking about. So this involves creating a personal framework for a person. Getting an idea of that individual, making observations, and then just knowing what you're going to do what you're going to do in the future by using that compass. So important things. First and foremost, it all has to be in freedom. If the person isn't free, if you're coercing them to do things, if it's you do this and not suggestions, then you've made a big mistake, and you're shooting yourself in the foot, because they'll hate you, and when they realize that they're not free in this situation, you'll be pushing them backwards as well. What else did we do? So I'll go over a couple of things. So an important kind of maxim of this is that you shouldn't reveal any part of your compass to the person until after they've surpassed the stage in which the specific part of the compass was useful. So, for example, if you have somebody who's really quite firm on a particular issue, but you know that they haven't been thinking about it, you know they don't have awareness in that one area, then just what's it called? And so you just ask them questions. You just say, how is this? Is this true? I mean, just as an example, you say, you just question them about it, and you just keep questioning them about it until they realize it, and they give the thing more thought. You shouldn't say, "Hey, I'm doing this," to them, because that's just not. That's not nice for them to hear. B, if it's still effective, because they have the awareness about that, it won't be effective anymore, whatever it is that you're doing. And B, you're kind of turning them into a thing or like an asset. And I'll go over this now. So in this, and just in general, people should not be made into things. So this is just my opinion, of course, but in a like a school setting, you shouldn't simplify humans to being something. You shouldn't say, for example, you shouldn't delegate people into being a class. You shouldn't delegate people into being children or subjects or patients. You're making them into items. You're denying their humanity almost. That is not a very good thing to do. It will send them backwards. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes when you do that to somebody, they do not like it, and they what's it called? And they will become more self-aware, because you are taking away their freedom and making them into a thing, if that makes sense. And I don't really know how to put this into words, but it's just like, people shouldn't be made into children, people shouldn't be made into patients, people shouldn't be made into subjects. People are humans, full stop. You shouldn't be making people things that they're not. Quite a lot of the time, I see teachers and like therapists do this, and they assume that the person doesn't know that they're being kind of delegated into being a more thing-like, more something to be managed, rather than a human to grow, if that makes sense. And the types who do this often just assume that it's fine and they don't know or they don't care, but they do. So, also think while you're dealing with other people, you need to always consider that everything you do and everything you think about the person is wrong, because you're not them. You have no idea. And this isn't to say don't try and help people in terms of self-awareness, but it's always coming from an external view. It's always coming from what you have done in your life, and not their. It's not coming from them. And even if they can't communicate that properly, which most people really can't communicate what goes on internally, really, but still having external hypothesis thrusted on people is not good. You have people who lots of therapists and lots of teachers just take one look and think that they know somebody or that they know a situation from every angle. They don't, most of the time, because it's an external thing. They don't know what the people are thinking, and most of the time they don't even bother to ask. And when they do, even if they do ask, most of the time they ask in the wrong way, so they don't get good answers. Here's another thing. Hold on. So, next thing, the work has nothing to do with paperwork. Just as a good practice thing. I mean, this is a more casual thing. It's not therapy. It's not. It's just something you can do to help people out in terms of self-awareness if you want to, if they can. And there's loads of different things that you can do. It's basically doing this is basically making people think about things that they wouldn't think about otherwise. So again, the work cannot be triggered externally. It has to be triggered internally. The person has to really care. Most people do. Most people really do care about working towards their highest good, whatever that highest good is. And most people really do care about getting better and being more self-aware. But it doesn't come off like that. Most people don't. Most people aren't going to say that. And it's, different ways of communicating, different ways of doing loads of different things. The work cannot be triggered externally, and it's a highly personal thing. In terms of becoming more self-aware, it's always internal, and it can't be internal. Some things about some therapies and some psychiatry things is that quite a lot of, at least in my opinion, with what I've observed and what I've seen, it's quite a lot of therapy stuff is just the person giving themselves permission to get better. But you can just do that if you're with self-awareness, it's, you can just kind of do that to some degree. But obviously each individual is different, each issue is different, and general sweeping statements are not very good in any case. There's lots of layers to doing this as well. So first, everything has to be completely in freedom. Then thinking must be triggered in some way, and then they have to dissolve certain concepts, and then advanced stages, you dissolve everything, and then you have to sit and live with the concepts until the self-awareness in general has increased, and then you do that again and again and again and again. So there's lots of things, there's lots of reasons as to why people are not self-aware, but that's the next installment. We're going to go over all of the reasons as to why people nowadays are not as self-aware as they could be. Most of the time, it's not the fault of the individual. There are some people who, there's a very small amount of people who really do just, care about material pleasure. Most of the time, it's external things that they need to push past, but it's something that they need to push past. You can't push past them for them, if that makes sense. In terms of spirituality as well, so like thinking triggers, most people, if you live an everyday life, there's not much that would trigger you to think, hey, should I be doing this? Especially with spiritual stuff. If you try to force Christianity, for example, on a person, basically it always fails, and then most of the time never end up a Christian. But when somebody out of freedom reads the Bible, for example, and they have a true and genuine internal experience, that's a good thing, and good things come out of that. Generally, when you try and teach spiritual stuff in freedom, because it has to be in freedom, but the person also has to have proper context, genuine and internal willingness to learn, genuine and internal interest in the whole subject, a decent level of self-awareness so that they can look at the subjects and dissolve them properly. So what I mean when I say dissolve is you need to look at it with a whole lot of these viewpoints. I'll talk about that later, but I think I talked about that last time. I'll talk about that a week ago, or on the last installment. You need to be able to dissolve ideas and look at them through all these viewpoints. And also, people, especially in spiritual stuff, you need to have the whole material of whatever's being learned. So, different versions, different opinions. Otherwise, it's just information and noise. So, I think I might have went over information and knowledge last time. I think I did. It's like, I'll talk about information and knowledge a bit again. So we deal with information in schools. We deal with information in driving. But in self-awareness, in spirituality and philosophy, we deal with knowledge. So knowledge is when you really understand something, and you can look at it from all of these angles, and you have looked at it from all of these angles, and you've came to a proper conclusion on it. Information is just noise. It's just so an example of this: ask somebody what the speed limit is. They'll probably tell you. Why is it the speed limit? Why do we need a speed limit? They'll probably never give you an answer, never give you a good answer, or they'll give you an answer that they've regurgitated from somebody else. This is another big problem. So most people, if I go up to somebody and I ask them a deep kind of spiritual question and they take it seriously and they try to answer, what's going to happen is they are probably going to give you a answer from somebody else. And if you know, so there's lots of opinions and things that are like said over and over again on TikTok, and if you know what these are, I can't think of one from memory, but they do exist, especially about religion. One that comes from Reddit is, we've had religion, we don't need religion anymore as a society, we've got science now, as if that means something. And they'll just say that, and you ask somebody about that statement and they can't defend it because they're just regurgitating information. They don't even have an opinion other than that, but they feel that that's enough. It's obviously not, but yeah. So each person as well, so this is a thing, so there's all these things to take into consideration, but there's also individuals. So individuals are going to have their own personalities, their own predispositions, their own likes, interests, their own ways of viewing the world, and all of this has to be taken into consideration. It's very, very hard. The language as well. So if somebody does not use language the same way that you do, and you misinterpret it, which you need to always be careful for, then you can derail things. You know, if you're asking somebody definitions of things that are like, I don't know, if you're asking somebody definitions of things that is just like obvious to them, that's not good. But there's more to the language thing than that. But also, if what you have said is different to you than it is to them, you could say some really egregious thing to them that obviously you haven't, not really, but to them that you have. And when there is a mix-up, this is, in my opinion, what you should do. So, if somebody gives you a bad answer, just tell them. So what I mean by bad answer is if they completely miss the idea. So I don't mean like, they disagree with you. Like if somebody can put together an opinion on the idea that you're putting forward, then, you know, whatever. But if they miss the idea, so what I mean by that is, you say, I mean, this is a very simplified thing. It's a lot more subtle than this most of the time. But you say, oh, I don't like chicken. And they take that to mean that you're like a vegetarian or something. They start talking about how much they hate vegetarians. You just need to tell them that that's a bad answer. And then they'll think about that thing. And then they'll enliven more self-awareness sometimes. Obviously, it's up to them if they do that. Another thing here, so I call this compassing, and this kind of compassing, personal compassing on individuals to enliven self-awareness, but it's important to stress there is no such thing as compassing. Words represent cosmic forces, but they are not the cosmic forces themselves. A kind of true self-awareness will allow for sharp distinction like this. Will not allow for sharp distinction like this. So if you say, oh, I'm doing compassing. No, you're not. You're doing a whole load of different things with the goal of trying to enliven someone's self-awareness and try and grow someone's self-awareness. You're not doing compassing. You're not doing anything. You're doing things that can't be expressed in words. I mean, I hate words. Because they're, you know. But anyway, we'll move on to that. So there are a couple of kinds of personal compassing. So I'll go over that. So again, these are just sharp distinctions. Try and stay away from them. But these are just some ways that you can use it. So there's double. So personal compassing. So this is somebody that you know and you probably care about, and you want to help them become more self-aware and think more, and you can kind of push a bit more with this one because you know the person. Interested party or IP compassing is quite honourable, difficult, but honourable. So interested party is when you are an interested party. You might know them a little bit, you might have some kind of connection to. You've got no reason to help them other than, you know, just general interest in the future of humanity, kind of. But it's a good thing to do, but some people don't like it if they see just like a random person trying to interfere. I mean, you're not trying to interfere, you're trying to get people to think, but sometimes it can come off as that, and sometimes people take things the wrong way. Professional, so I'm not talking about doing compassing as a profession, but I'm talking about, so like, this is something that teachers do and managers do, and like therapists do. They do things to try and make people more self-aware and try and be better. So it's when it's kind of part of your job. So, also, sometimes personal encompassing does not just involve you and the person. Sometimes it involves um, another person or more people. So sometimes sometimes doing this can manifest in simply, here's a problem, here's the steps that I need to do, and then you take the steps. But relevant others can help and do things if you present the things in a reasonable manner, and they don't even have to know that you've analyzed the person and you've find out that it's the best thing. If it's a good thing to do, generally people will help. Here's the thing as well. This is a good practice just in general. Don't any kind of this that you do, unless there is some circumstance that says you have to write a report or a complaint. You should not write down a compassing plan or anything like that. You should not write down any of this. The only things that you should write down are either the complaints or simple, quick, one-line to-dos. So that can literally be just like, I don't know, tell this person about this book or something. Nothing too crazy, because it's not good, and it also creates kind of like a hierarchy. It turns them into a thing, like I talked about before. It makes less human interactions, and it makes them seem less human, if that makes sense. Also, this is very important. If somebody asks you to stop what you're doing, you should immediately. Though, I'm talking about the person. If it's somebody else, maybe take that as a warning, but it just depends on the situation. All of this really very much depends on the situation. You don't have to give them anything in the future. If they do ask you to stop, I mean, you can. What's next? So I'll go over a couple of things and then we'll end it. So I have a chart, and I'll send the chart. I'll send the chart in the Discord channel, but I won't. You're gonna have to show up and ask me for it if you're watching this on YouTube. So Anthroposophy Stage, there it is. So this is just a general thing. This isn't true for everybody. This is a very general thing from observations. And the chart doesn't really make much sense, but we'll get over it. So at the bottom of this chart, we have lead awareness, which is, not many people are at that, really, but that is the people who are completely unrefined thinking. They're just living their life. They exist in their world. They're not, kind of separate. They're just doing the things that are normal. There's no thought triggers, generally. And the thought is not provoked by any of the meaningful realms of thought. So spirituality, philosophy, politics. They don't think about that at all. It's just kind of outside of what they do. And to do this, and to escape this, you have to travel up Mount Normalism and realize that actually lots of things that are normal are suppressing you. It's easy to do, but people who are at this cannot, like, if you're listening to this and you can understand what I'm saying and you're not like frothing at the mouth because you hate me so much, you're not at lead awareness. Very few people are. but realizing that there is a normal and that normal isn't the best is traveling up Mount Normalism. Next one, EA, entry awareness. Most people are entry awareness, so they have the capability to dissolve and deconstruct things. They have the they have the abilities to do all this stuff. They have the ability to be more self-awareness, but their priorities do not lie in self-improvement. They do not lie in self-awareness. They do not lie in any of the meaningful realms of thought. The capability is there. They can, if they are given a reason to think, then they will. But their priorities are food, movies, clothes, materialistic stuff. Ask them what they're living for, like what they're really living for. They're living for themselves. They're living for other people. Ask them what their highest good is, and are they living and acting to achieve that. And they don't realize that they're not. They don't realize that they are actually living in reality. They don't realize that this is the same reality that all of this other stuff has happened in. They don't realize that they're living in reality, if that makes any sense whatsoever. There is RA, rudimentary awareness. So this is a higher. This is a higher thing, but it's not heightened self-awareness. So rudimentary awareness is attained through specialization of something. So doing something over and over again, getting a good conception of it. When you have a good conception of even just one thing, and through persistence and through dissociation and meta thought, which is thinking about thinking, you'll have something about you that you didn't, and you'll be able to exercise better judgment and stuff. Again, this is just general, it's not for everybody, but also the key thing here is not time, so you don't have to be you don't have to be doing something for 60 years. By specialization I mean specifically understanding something as a whole, really genuinely, from every single way that you can look at it. Next is KK. We won't talk about that. We don't need to talk about that. Actually, I will. So, KK echelon is gained by craftspeople after a very whole and a very true comprehension of something, and it usually so it's like rudimentary awareness RA plus, basically. So if you get RA with persistence, you get KK with persistence and some. So it's higher than RA, but it's not fully HA, heightened state of self-awareness. So HA, heightened state of self-awareness. This is a big step. I will say people at EA and LA cannot tell the difference between somebody at RA or higher. So, but as you kind of move up, you'll be able to see. Again, these are just general archetypes. They're not like anything too serious. But so HA, heightened self-awareness. So you know when somebody's there, and it's very, very hard at this stage to compass for them unless you're one or two echelons in this chart above them. So they will know their highest good, and they will be striving towards it. So to get from rudimentary awareness to a heightened state of self-awareness, you have to pass a wall of water to attain this state of self-awareness. So the wall of water is basically, there is no challenge. You don't need to improve. You at rudimentary awareness, everything's fine. There's no need for more self-awareness. So through persistence, you can do it. Somebody at HA will be able to make sound decisions based on what they know internally, and they can dissolve things. They can dissolve prior structures, but sometimes they don't. Quite a lot of people at HA have one or two things that is just like they're very, very wrong at, from my observation. But through persistence in internal growth, you can move from HA to GC. So it simply involves finding and identifying internal problems, identifying the steps to fix the problems, taking the steps, also on the side dissolving prior structures and thinking in the way that I talked about last time on different topics, wherever the chance is there. Identifying steps to take to lift off in terms of spiritual and personal development. So you say, I'm going to do the 6 basic exercises every single day. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And you identify what you need and you do it and you lift off. So it's beginning to do those steps. So that's persistence. That's how you go from HA to GC. There's a kind of half step as well, HA, GC, which is where people are kind of in the middle. They haven't really gotten to GC yet, but you know they're getting there. There is a definite wholeness and fullness to GC or general consciousness that you can very much tell that somebody is at HA but not GC. GC, there is a very definite wholeness there. Anybody can tell. Anybody above rudimentary awareness but below general consciousness will be able to tell a general consciousness, a GC, from a mile away because they know what's going on. The GC also, GCs may have one or two things, more likely just one, things that they are very, very severely wrong about, but they'll work itself out. So the last one is initiate consciousness. That's very spiritual. It's kind of completion of an internal journey, and it's personal and it's different for each person. I will say lots more people are initiates than they give themselves credit for, especially in anthroposophy, but we'll gloss over that. So the thing to do at GC is spiritual practice and spiritual exercises and things like that, and then you'll find yourself probably at initiate consciousness if you can identify what you personally need to do. So, general notes. It's just for general use. Don't read into it too much. This is just what I've seen from my observations. Take everything on a case-by-case basis, because you should. And there's definitely a higher and a lower end of each thing. There's not just like you move up and you unlock all these powers. No, it's different for each individual, and there's a higher and a lower end. That's about everything that I was going to go over. Any questions from the people who are here live before we go? What? Yeah. So compassing, the way that I kind of define that is a kind of thing where it's like you create a compass or a framework or something that through observations works, basically offering guidance. So it's through observation, through observation, making a compass kind of where an individual, it doesn't have to be an individual, but I'm talking about specifically with individuals here, but it's just what steps need to be taken, what you need to do, what they need to hear in order to trigger thought and in order to trigger self-awareness in freedom, if that makes sense. I will say for the YouTube viewers, rosefolk.xyz, join the Discord server. We do these live every Sunday at 9 p.m. GMT. Join the Discord server, please. I see we have a person typing. The wall of water. So, again, this is just a general archetype, but it's... So somebody who is at rudimentary awareness, they don't need to make any changes. They don't need to improve. They can, but there's no need. There's no like, I need to get better. And somebody can move up from rudimentary awareness to a heightened state of self-awareness by consistently persisting and getting better. So the wall of water is kind of like boredom. Well, not boredom. It's just like there's nothing. There's no change is needed. If that makes sense. Like, it's kind of just like a mirror wall, almost. You can stand in the mirror and look at yourself, or you could smash the wall, and self-initiative is needed to get past. You need to have drive, because there's no reason to. You don't need to. You don't really need to. But obviously it's better if you do, and after you've gone past it, you'll realise that, hey, I really needed to do that. If that makes sense. But I mean, this is just from what I've observed with people. Lots of people are just kind of like content where they are. I mean, people should be content. I'm not saying don't be content, but what I mean is people just they don't see any reason for kind of like self improvement or anything. But the people who, even when they don't have a reason, they are still continuously self-improving, but they have this thing about them that they have got through that continuous self-improvement. So, I mean, I think my personally, like, I can very much tell how, like, a couple of years ago with the stuff that I was writing, it was very, very bad. Like, it wasn't written badly, but it was like not good ideas. But at the time, it was just like, yeah, whatever. You know, there's no need. But with the initiative of just keeping going and continuing, you pass the wall of water, you're there, and it's like, oh my god. I will also say as well, in this chart and in this model, there's definitely stuff above initiate consciousness, but I'm unfortunately not an initiate, so I don't know. But after that level, it gets more spiritual than just looking at it in terms of self-awareness. So this is all the stuff that's relevant in terms of self-awareness, and in terms of everyday life. So thank you for coming. Next time, we're going to do stuff on society, what blocks that people may have in terms of self-awareness and why. Just stuff reasons as to why people are not as self-aware as they could be. Yeah. Okay, cool.